Ever wondered why you wake up groggy, indecisive, or mentally exhausted, despite getting a full night's sleep? This video reveals a simple nighttime ritual to empty your mind before bed so you can sleep peacefully and wake up with clear decisions. Most people believe that the more tired you are, the faster you fall asleep. They assume sleep itself is the solution to mental clutter. However, science shows your brain doesn't shut down when you sleep. It keeps processing unfinished thoughts, worries, and decisions. That's why you wake up feeling mentally drained, but there's a fix. By practicing a nightly mind-dumping ritual using techniques like reverse visualization, voice dumping, and the mental inbox zero method, you can clear your brain's mental cache, allowing for deeper sleep and sharper morning clarity. In this video, we'll guide you through these 10 innovative mind-clearing techniques that top performers swear by. Eleanor's story gives us deeper insight into how this works. Eleanor sat on the edge of her perfectly made bed in her New York apartment, physically tired, mentally overloaded. The clock glowed 11:59 p.m., but her mind was far from ready to sleep. Tabs of unfinished emails, unsent texts, tomorrow's meeting points, and a mental reel of what-ifs looped endlessly. She had read all the advice. Turn off your phone an hour before bed, read a book, meditate. But none of it worked. Her body was in bed, but her brain was still in a boardroom, a kitchen argument, an unresolved decision loop. One night, an old mentor told her, "Your brain is like a web browser. If you don't close the tabs, it keeps running in the background, even while you sleep." That hit her. So she tried something new, a 3-minute mental dump before bed, writing down every open thought like closing browser tabs. That night, her mind felt lighter. She didn't fall asleep, she surrendered to it. The next morning, Eleanor woke up with clarity she hadn't felt in years. This video is about that ritual and 9 others that will help you empty your mind before bed so you can finally wake up with peace and power. Let's begin.
Eleanor stared at the ceiling. 2:17 a.m. The city outside pulsed with neon life, but her bedroom was a battlefield of thoughts. Did I reply to that client? What if the pitch tomorrow tanks? It wasn't insomnia. It was mental overload. Her brain wasn't tired. It was stuck buffering, like a laptop with too many tabs open, each one demanding attention, none of them closing. She rolled over and grabbed her phone, not to scroll, but to write. Desperate, she opened a blank note and began typing furiously. One by one, the tabs started closing. Not in her mind, but on paper. After 3 minutes, something strange happened. The tightness in her chest loosened, her shoulders dropped. Her thoughts, still there, but distant, like muted notifications. This was her first encounter with what her mentor called the mental cache, a hidden web of unfinished thoughts, looping endlessly in the brain's background processes. The next evening, Eleanor would discover the power of a decision shelf, a ritual that detoxes decision fatigue before bed. And this would change everything.
Eleanor's morning felt different. For the first time in weeks, she didn't wake up with that mental fog, the kind where even choosing what to wear felt like solving a Rubik's Cube. But as the day progressed, the old loops crept back. By noon, every email seemed urgent. By evening, her mind was a crowded room of unfinished conversations. She realized clearing mental tabs before sleep was just surface-level relief. The deeper issue was decision fatigue, the silent mental drain that happens when unresolved choices tag along into sleep. That night, Eleanor sat on her bed, eyes shut, mentally listing all the decisions she had been postponing. Do I approve the new hire tomorrow? Do I accept the speaking invite? Should I confront Claire about the project delays? Each thought buzzed like an open app in the background, draining her cognitive battery. Then her mentor's voice echoed, "Decisions don't need to be solved at night, they just need to be shelved." Eleanor grabbed a sticky note and titled it, "Decision Shelf." One by one, she wrote down pending choices and consciously parked them for tomorrow, giving her brain permission to release them for the night. A peculiar calm washed over her. Her mind wasn't forced to solve, just to defer. When she woke up, something had shifted. Her early morning decisions were sharper, almost effortless. It was as if her brain had processed them subconsciously, free from the cluttered noise. But there was still a residual tension she couldn't shake. The big decisions felt lighter, but the emotional weight of the day still clung to her chest like a damp fog. Tasks were handled, decisions were shelved, but stress, that was different. Eleanor realized she wasn't just mentally cluttered. She was emotionally overloaded. That night, she would learn a new ritual, Not about solving problems, but about sweeping stress out of her mind through a technique called reverse visualization. And this would cleanse her mind in a way no list ever could. That night, Eleanor sat by her window, the city lights twinkling quietly. She wasn't overwhelmed, but she wasn't at peace either. The lists had helped. The decision shelf had cleared the mental clutter. But a subtle heaviness lingered, a quiet stress embedded not in tasks but in her body. Her mentor had once shared an odd technique, reverse visualization. Eleanor, most people visualize success, but before sleep, visualize release. Intrigued, she decided to try. She closed her eyes and pictured her mind as a dusty attic cluttered with boxes labeled worries, embarrassments, tomorrow. Then, slowly, she imagined sweeping each box out one by one. She visualized her anxieties as clouds of dust, drifting away with every exhale. With each breath, the attic grew emptier, lighter, clearer. It wasn't a forced meditation, it was a mental sweep. She didn't analyze the stress, she released it visually. After 5 minutes, her body felt looser, her jaw unclenched. The noise of the day softened into a gentle hum. For the first time, her mind wasn't being forced to sleep, it was being invited to. This nightly sweep became a ritual. It wasn't about fixing emotions, it was about giving them a pathway out. But Eleanor still noticed something. Despite her mind feeling clear, her body often felt tense. The stress she swept away mentally seemed to linger physically in her neck, shoulders and back. Mental clutter was being managed, emotional clutter was being processed, but physical tension was holding its ground. Her mind was ready to rest, but her body was still wired. That's when Eleanor realized, clearing the mind wasn't enough. To fully empty herself before bed, she needed to address the physical toll of stress. The next night, she would discover a strange but effective method called voice dumping. A technique that combined physical action with emotional release, and this would unlock the next layer of mental freedom. Eleanor sat cross-legged on her bed, the reverse visualization ritual done, but a storm still brewed beneath her skin. The mental clutter had been swept, but her body felt heavy, as if her stress had retreated deeper, hiding in the muscles and nerves. The silence in her apartment was deafening. She grabbed her journal, hoping that scribbling her thoughts might loosen the knots in her chest, but pen on paper felt slow, detached. The emotions were swirling too fast to catch with ink. Frustrated, she remembered her mentor's quirky advice.
When thoughts outrun your pen, talk them out. Voice dump.
Eleanor grabbed her phone, opened the voice recorder and hit record. At first, she hesitated. Speaking her thoughts aloud felt awkward, but then the dam broke. She ranted about the passive-aggressive emails, the looming deadlines, the way her boss's tone pierced her confidence. She spoke of the subtle loneliness no one knew she carried. Her voice trembled, cracked, but she didn't stop. Minutes passed. By the time she hit stop, her heart was pounding, but her chest felt lighter. It was as if speaking had extracted the emotional residue lodged in her body. More importantly, recording it made it feel contained. The thoughts were no longer spinning inside her. They were trapped safely in that audio file, sealed away. That night, Eleanor slept deeply. But as she awoke the next morning, she noticed a new layer of tension, not in her mind, not in her emotions, but in her physical body. Her shoulders ached, her jaw was sore, her legs were restless. It was as if her body had been storing stress all along, quietly resisting rest. Eleanor realized the next step was inevitable. If she wanted true mental emptiness before bed, she had to release the tension trapped in her body, and tonight she would discover the power of mental muscle shaking, a strange 3-minute movement ritual that promised to reset both body and mind. Eleanor stood barefoot in her living room, arms limp at her sides, staring at a YouTube video titled "Shake Off Mental Tension in 3 Minutes." It felt ridiculous, but last night's voice dumping had revealed something deeper. Her mind was clearer, but her body was a cage of stress. The instructor on screen smiled gently.
When thoughts stick in the body, you don't need more thinking. You need to shake them out.
Eleanor inhaled deeply and began. She started with small shoulder rolls, then light shakes down her arms. Within seconds, her hands were vibrating, the tension vibrating with them. It felt silly, awkward. But as she continued, bouncing gently on her feet, shaking her legs, wrists, shoulders, something unexpected happened. Tears welled up, her jaw unclenched. It wasn't the movement itself, it was what the movement released. The tiny, unnoticed tensions of the day, the way she'd clenched her fist during meetings, the stiff posture of professionalism, the restrained sighs. All of it was now leaving her body through motion. Her breathing deepened. Her mind felt connected to her body in a way journaling and voice memos never could. By the end of 3 minutes, Eleanor wasn't exhausted. She was reset. Her mind, emotions, and body had synchronized into a rare stillness, but there was one final frontier. As she lay down, savoring this newfound lightness, a subtle anxiety whispered, "What if it comes back tomorrow? What if I forget this feeling?" She realized. Her body could release tension, but her nervous system still needed a signal to sustain calm. It wasn't just about moving stress out, it was about teaching her body how to stay calm, starting with the very organ that controlled her breath, her gut, and her thoughts. That night, Eleanor would explore the brain-gut connection, discovering how deep intentional breathing could permanently seal her nightly mental reset. Eleanor lay on her bed, her body freshly relaxed from the shaking ritual, but a tight, twisting sensation lingered in her abdomen. It wasn't sharp, but it was constant, a low-grade tension humming beneath her ribs. Her mind was quiet, her muscles were loose. Yet her gut felt like it was still bracing for a storm. Scrolling through an old article, she stumbled on a line that struck her.
The gut and brain are pen pals. When one's anxious, the other gets the letter.
Suddenly, it clicked. Eleanor had been emptying her mind, venting emotions, shaking tension, but she'd forgotten the silent partner in her stress loop, her gut.
Her mentor once told her, "Breathe into your belly. It's the fastest way to reset your mind."
That night, Eleanor tried diaphragmatic breathing. She placed a hand on her stomach and inhaled slowly, making sure her belly, not her chest, rose first. Then she exhaled, long and controlled. On the third breath, a surprising thing happened. Her shoulders, which she thought were already relaxed, dropped even further. The knot in her stomach began to untangle, breath by breath. With each slow inhale, her nervous system shifted from fight or flight to rest and digest. It wasn't instant, but it was deep. Her mind grew quieter, not because she forced it, but because her body had signaled safety through breath. For the first time, Eleanor realized that emptying her mind wasn't about thinking less. It was about teaching her entire system how to feel safe enough to let go. But clarity has a habit of revealing new blind spots. Eleanor noticed she had a habit of mentally revisiting the same few mental notifications every night. Tasks, reminders, trivial concerns like pop-ups that never stayed closed. She needed a system to clear these mental notifications once and for all. That night, Eleanor would craft her personal mental inbox zero method, a strategy to truly declutter her mind space before bed. Eleanor's breath was steady, her body calm, and her gut tension dissolved. Yet as she settled into bed, small mental notifications kept popping up. It was like having a cluttered email inbox. No major problems, but endless little pings demanding attention. This time, instead of reacting, she smiled. Her mentor's words echoed, "Your mind is your inbox. Clear it every night." Eleanor opened her journal and created 3 simple categories. Tomorrow, later, delete. She went through every mental notification, writing them into one of these columns. Reply to Sarah, tomorrow. Rent payment, done, delete. Birthday gift, later. The process took 5 minutes, but as the final note was jotted down, something remarkable happened. Her brain stopped reminding her. It was as if by assigning these thoughts a proper place, her mind finally trusted her to handle them later. For the first time, Eleanor's headspace felt empty but not forgotten. There was no guilt of unfinished tasks lingering. No anxiety about losing track. It was clarity. However, as she closed her journal and prepared to drift into sleep, Eleanor noticed a quieter, subtler kind of mental clutter, one she hadn't addressed. It wasn't about tasks or decisions. It wasn't even about physical tension. It was the micro-complaints. Eleanor realized that if she didn't clear these emotional dust particles, they'd accumulate over time, clogging her mental space. That night, she would try something new, a gratitude flip, an exercise where every complaint is countered with a positive reflection, and this would finally clear her mind's emotional debris. Eleanor turned off her bedside lamp and stared into the dark. But her mind wasn't quiet, not because of thoughts, but because of noise. The refrigerator's hum, the faint ticking of a wall clock, the soft glow of her phone screen, even on Do Not Disturb, felt intrusive. It was as if the environment was whispering distractions, anchoring her mind to wakefulness. She remembered something her mentor once said.
External noise amplifies internal clutter. Silence isn't just absence, it's clarity.
Determined, Eleanor stood up and began eliminating every sound source. The fridge, switched off temporarily. The wall clock, removed. Her phone, not just on airplane mode, but powered off. For the first time in months, Eleanor's apartment descended into pure, untouched silence. But the silence wasn't comfortable, it was loud. Every beat of her heart echoed in her ears. The absence of noise forced her to confront the rawness of her inner state. No digital pings to distract, no background hum to comfort. For 20 minutes she lay there restless, wrestling with this newfound void. Then slowly the silence shifted. It transformed from unsettling to serene. Her breathing synchronized with the quiet. Her thoughts slowed. She wasn't fighting to silence her mind. The environment had done it for her. This was a deeper clarity than she had ever achieved. Yet this ritual revealed something profound. The battle wasn't just against external noise, it was against the topics her mind was trained to revisit after dark. Eleanor realized she needed to set boundaries on her own thoughts. A mental blackout list. A commitment to not think about certain triggering topics after a set hour. Work, regrets, hypothetical worries, they would not be entertained. If she wanted complete mind space sovereignty, she had to discipline her mental entries before bed. That night, Eleanor was about to discover the most powerful ritual of all, the mental blackout list, a hack used by top performers to protect their sleep clarity. Eleanor sat on the edge of her bed, the room immersed in stillness. She had decluttered her mind, emptied her emotional cache, silenced her environment, but there was still one final act of discipline left. Her mentor's words resurfaced. High performers don't just control what they think, they control when they think it. Eleanor realized her mind was still wired to revisit certain topics at night. Work deadlines, past mistakes, endless what-ifs. These thoughts were like habitual intruders that didn't knock, they barged in. That's when she opened her journal and titled a fresh page, Mental Blackout List, Topics I Refused to Think About After 9 p.m. She wrote with conviction. Work emails and deadlines, conversations I can't change, future what-if scenarios, financial worries, social media highlights and lows.
Each entry wasn't a passive wish, it was a boundary, a self-imposed rule of mental hygiene. Eleanor whispered to herself, "If it's on this list, it's not allowed in my head tonight."
And with that, she closed her journal. Lying back, Eleanor felt something she hadn't felt in years. Not just sleepiness, but mental sovereignty. For once, her mind wasn't a playground for random thoughts, stress loops, or external triggers. It was a sanctuary, deliberate, disciplined, and at peace. As her eyes fluttered shut, she realized this wasn't a one-time ritual. It was a new operating system, a nightly practice of emptying her mind, ensuring that every morning she'd wake up not just rested, but decisive, focused, and clear. The rituals, the thought dump, decision shelf, voice venting, body shaking, gut-calming breaths, mental inbox zero, gratitude flips, sound off, and now, the blackout list weren't mere hacks. They were armor, a system designed to shield her mental clarity and preserve her energy for what truly mattered. In a world that glorifies hustle and noise, Eleanor had found her secret edge in silence, because sometimes the smartest thing you can do before bed is to empty your mind and say nothing.